Hey guys, Chris here with Work2Game, and it is just a murky, rainy day outside, and I was just sitting down looking at the amount of hobby that I've gotten done lately, and there's not a whole lot of progress going on in my hobby corner. But what is going on is that I should be having my two new codexes come in this week, and that's Thousand Suns and Chaos Demons. And so that'll kind of round out what's available for me as a Chaos player. I already have the Chaos Space Marine book, and I have the Death Guard book. It'd be nice to kind of see an update to Khorne and Slaanesh, and then I mean that's about it. I'm in pretty good shape, but I hate to be greedy because there's still armies out there like Orcs, for example, that have not got a codex yet. And so I just wanted to kind of take today and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of why GW releases codexes in the order that they do. Why is my codex not out yet? That's the question, right? Because they release them one at a time. And the downside of that is the most recent codex always seems to have this chance that they're kind of the most powerful at the time, because there's this power creep that happens, and they're always a counter, right? It's always rock, and then paper, and then scissors, and it just continues. And what that means is by the time you let the power creep up a little each time, this bottom guy gets left behind. So why don't they just put them all out with 8th edition? When it drops, why not just do that? Well, the downside of that is you would have to do one of two things to make that happen. You would either have to staff way up, and then you'd have no ability to carry those people through the expansion, or you would have to stockpile the books. You would have to pay these people and develop all the books, and then drop them with the edition to make that money back. And the downside to that is that what if we don't buy multiple, right? What if I just buy my one codex and then I'm good? There's kind of a constant revenue stream that's able to come in by releasing things as they have it. It also allows them to have the side benefit of balancing as they go. So if they come out with something and it's wrong, they can adjust it by making the next codex counter it, or so on, instead of getting the whole game out of whack by not really having any beta testing. So they're always dropping one variable into the waters at a time. And one, it's not actually just one codex at a time. They'll drop 2 or 3, but they kind of They drop a couple stones in the water, they let those ripple out. They drop a few more, they let those ripple out. And that kind of allows that balance. Now the downside in editions past is that you can still end up with power creep. So by the time you end up at the end of an edition, you end up with 3 or 4 armies still driving the meta. And the way you counter that, in my opinion, is you make updates to past codexes without redoing the codex. And the way to do that is chapter approved. And so chapter approved gets some criticism, depending on who you talk to, about the fact that it's kind of this subscription to the game that you have to keep paying if you want to be in matched play. But it does allow them to go back and do things like realize, okay, you know, maybe it turns out the new Eldar Codex is too powerful. And they can go back and say, you know what, we're going to change a few rules with keywords, we're going to adjust a few point values, you know, and then if there's another army that's underpowered, they can go back and say, okay, let's do some point reductions, let's, you know, maybe add a few things where certain stratagems can be paired together so that in certain circumstances units become more useful. And because ultimately they're a model company first, and so their goal typically is to sell more models, and so they have a tendency of looking at a model line and saying, okay, these models aren't being used, how do they breathe life back into those? And that's why it's really clever as a marketing strategy to allow us to start mixing armies and things like that, because the rigidity of it not only didn't totally hold up in lore, that like Astra Militarum couldn't run with Space Marines, but that you're stopping a Space Marine player at a cap. There's a hard cap, and if you've ever taken like a battle scribe tool or anything like that, or just a calculator and a lot of numbers, adding up my whole codex, everything I ever want to own, ever, just like if it was all free and built and painted for me and just mythically in the future it's wonderful, I ticked up to like 17,000 points of chaos or something goofy. And I'm at 3. And so I've got years and years of collecting in front of me. But when I get to that 17,000, then what happens? Because this hobby's been around long enough, there are people with 8 and 9 and 10,000 points worth of stuff. And it's not free, and so maybe the things that they're missing, that remaining 7,000, are things they don't actually want to pay for, because they feel that for that price it's not worth it. And so saying, you know what, you could bring an orc detachment, oh, I've always liked orcs, and now if their fear was they didn't want to start a second army, they're not starting a second army. I'm just getting a little bit. I'm just getting a detachment of it. Maybe a bigger detachment. Okay, maybe I'll make it the primary and Chaos my secondary. Okay, maybe I am also playing Orcs and Chaos at the same time. So there's kind of a benefit of that there. And so I think that's a good thing. So why your codex is not out is because it doesn't make sense for their business strategy to worry about that. The order in which they release them, I have no idea how they come up with that strategy. I'm sure marketing has a role. I'm sure the guys writing the books have a role. I'm sure the state of the game has a role. I'm sure there is all sorts of factors that roll into it, but that's not really something they share with us. All we do is we get announcements relatively short. It's not like we have a release schedule for the whole year of everything that's going to come out exactly on the day and what models are going to come with it and what models are going to be missing pieces and what things are going to get added to a book, but then the model's going to be delayed, which is so frustrating. We don't get any of that. We kind of just find out as we go. So I think that's really all I wanted to talk about this week. Was my brother and I kind of talked about why his codex is not out, and the other brother's about to get a codex for the first time, and in 8th, and I am about to get my 3rd and 4th codex, and so sometimes that doesn't feel fair. And I think it's easy to forget that as an individual player, you have to scale back to if I was running this as a business, because it's in all of our best interest that Games Workshop continues to exist as a company. So whatever they need to do to keep that taken care of, that's fine. I respect that. I do wish there was a little more transparency on what they're releasing at the same time, how they're blocking those together. When they release, it'd be great if it's like, okay, and with the codex, there's always going to be a Battle Force box. There's always going to be each of the new models that are in the codex that they added units, and so those are immediately available. There's always going to be an adjustment to the Get Started kit or whatever. And it's like, okay, we released 3 codexes. They each have the full package, and they will drop exactly on the 21st. Contact your local retailer to see if they're going to have stock or to make a pre-order. Perfect. And this is just something over here across the pond in the US. Sourcing these things is a huge ordeal, and maybe Games Workshop will change its presence now that they're starting to add like these wargaming cafes, which is kind of them bringing back the old battle bunkers. They used to have a presence in the US. The home base was actually around like Annapolis, Maryland, and then they had them all over the country, and then those have kind of closed back down, and now there's like stores and stuff like that, but there's not really that kind of battle bunker-esque place, and now they're talking about building these like restaurant cafes with lots of tables, and I don't know. They're changing their presence in the US, so maybe they'll change their strategy to go with it. I really like the way 8th is being run so far, and I would love to continue to see it supported through the years to come. I hope it's a very long time before 9th. I think they finally got a lot right, so I don't think this is going to be one of those short-lived editions where they've got to immediately cram into correcting it. I think through the proper release of codexes and then these sub-codexes that they kind of release, how I have like Chaos Space Marines, but then I also have Death Guard and Thousand Suns. You could have, like with Orc for our example, you could have the Orc Codex release, and if down the road they've already played through all the Space Marine Codex and stuff like that, if you want more Orc, just come out with a Bad Moons Codex, come out with 1 or 2 unique units, come out with a handful of new stratagems that are in addition to most of their original stratagems, and just re-release that and push people into Bad Moons, because right now you're pushing into Cult of Speed. So that's all that takes, right? You want to breathe back into Chaos, give us a Slaanesh Codex. I can't think of the last time that Noise Marines were relevant. They always are such cool little models, and they're not even a true model. It's like an adjustment kit. So give me a true model, let me go buy those, give me a Codex to go with it. A Slaanesh Chaos Space Marines book is something I would be really interested in, and that would break me out of the lists I'm already building, and I would have to buy new models to do it. Not initially because I'd proxy, but if I ended up enjoying it, yeah, I would totally buy some Noise Marines, and then maybe if you had 1 or 2 unique units that were brand new, totally new to the game, I would buy those too, and that would be a really awesome way to continue my collection. And so as a player, that's something I would hope for. So with that, what do you guys think? Do you guys like the way they release codexes now? Do you wish it was different? If so, how? Definitely let me know in the comments below. I am on my way to pick up, hopefully they're there, my Thousand Suns and my Chaos Demon codex today, and I'm really excited to finally get my hands on those and flip through them and maybe proxy some lists out of them and give that a shot and continue down the road of Death to the Emperor. So thank you guys. I will talk to you next time. This has been Chris with Work to Game. Take care.
Sup, guys?
Nice shirt.
Oh, man.
You think I could get one like that?
Well, you can get definitely a shirt like this. You can check out the Red Mage right here. This was a limited run shirt, and we actually have more limited run shirts right now. This month, we're focusing in on Dragoon. Other months, who knows? So it depends on when you see this video, what the shirt of the month would be. The link is definitely in the description, Chris. So if you want to go, support the channel and actually get something cool to wear and rep the channel, all the more power to you.
I just might do that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Buy a shirt.